Welcome to RIB, the Western Region Item Bank. Your login page is sbcounty.gov/hr/RIB, and your eRIB login is your own personal email. Go ahead and log in. Remember to use your own secure password. And sign in. You'll see this is your home page. You have your home button and you have your name right there so you know who you are. You have 3 columns. You have account management, your exam requests, and your reference materials. Under account management, you have your jurisdiction information, which you as the coordinator can update as needed. You also have your user admin where you can add your users as needed, and your users and you can change your password. The second column we're going to come back to, but on the third column, please notice the reference materials. You have your RIB code, which is a 4-digit code that we'll go over later. You have your item bank items in title order, in category order, and in cluster listing order. You have your RIB manual, you have your RIB coordinator and user guide, and you have your scoring and item analysis and utilizing item history breakouts. So back to exam requests. Your review drafts is your first portal into creating your exam. Click on your review drafts and you see that if you've created review drafts, you have a whole list of them. If you haven't, then you can add a new exam. Let's go ahead and title our exam Sample. We hit the Continue button and you see we now have an exam title of Sample, but we want to add questions. So now we will add a section to our questions. We'll go ahead and name our section title. We can name that Interpersonal Skills, and we'll add that section. Now, in order to add questions, you can see we have our section, and we have a plus in a circle, which will allow us to add questions. We have a plus in a box, which will allow you to add your own questions, and we have a delete if you decide you don't need this section anymore. Let's go ahead and hit the plus in the circle so we can add questions from the item bank. You'll see that under Search By, you have your choices of searching by category, searching by sequence number, or searching by cluster. Let's go ahead and search by category. And you see that you now have a category listing. All those listings go all the way down. We have, we have 1,020. So you can choose. For interpersonal skills, I believe our number would be 760, and we can choose 760 for public contact. You can choose your item type of alternate choice, multiple choice, or true false. You can take off what you don't want in your test. We're going to go for 25 questions, and we're going to search for items in the 760 category. And when we search, you see that the computer brings back a random listing of items. In these items, you can see what the actual question is by clicking on the sequence number. This is our question for sequence 1589. You can also see that we have history. So if we click on history, you can see how this item has been used by a variety of jurisdictions over time and the difficulty level. You can close your history. You can choose which questions you want. And you can say, Get selected items. We now have added 3 questions to our section. As you can see, these are the 3 questions that we chose, and if you want to change the order of the questions, you can certainly do that very easily. Now, if you have a second section you want to add, again, you hit the Add section. We'll title our section Sheet Metal, and it's very important that you type correctly, because this is exactly how it will show on your final booklet master. So we'll add that section. We'll add questions. We'll come back again to category and select our category. And if I recall, way down here we had sheet metal. So we're going to grab a few questions from that one. We'll search for our sheet metal category, and we've got 5 questions there. Again, we can look at our question, see if it's the question that we want to look at our history, see how that question has been used, and choose which questions we want to add to our section. If you choose all questions, you can certainly select all, and it will check all of them for you. We'll get our selected items, and you'll see that in section 2 we now have 5 items that we've chosen and added to the section. Again, I can change the order of these questions. Now I want to take a look at my test and see what it will look like, but first I want to make sure I save so that I don't lose my work so far. Then I can hit the preview button. What this will do with RIB is pull up a preview of this sample test that you can print for your subject matter expert to review. When your subject matter expert reviews it, you can choose if you're going to keep these questions, which order you want them in. And you can also see that we've included a history for those questions that do have a history. Our second section was section 2, and we have our questions here as well. When you're happy with that, or if you want to make changes, you can either print this, we can go back to our test, we can go in and we can rearrange these questions however we want to. And we can create and we can say, let's get rid of a couple questions. We'll get rid of those 2 questions. We're going to remove these selected items, very important. We will remove those items, and to make sure that you include these last 3 questions on your test, you want to make sure you go back and you check those one more time. We now have our test ready to go, 3 items and 3 items. Want to save to make sure I don't lose my information. And one other note I want you to see is that if we go home and we want to come back and look at this review draft again, we're going to pull up our sample and we're going to be able to view it. It will load it up for us. And we again have our sample test that we can show to our SME or review to make sure these are the questions that we want on our test in the order that we want them on our test. If you're happy with that, we will come back and we will say, let's edit this test, because what I want to do now is submit it for a Booklet Master. When I submit it for a Booklet Master, we have our RIB code. That's that 4-digit item ID that we had talked about earlier under our reference material. And you'll see that we have a 4-digit RIB job classification system. Your first digit will indicate the occupational area, whether it's clerical or professional, and we have an explanation below. Your second number will be your functional area. Are they functioning within the criminal justice area? Are they a construction area? You'll choose the right number for that. Again, we have a description of each of those. Your third digit will be your supervision that's received. Are they a trainee, an entry level? Are they all the way up to a director? And again, we have an explanation for each of those. And last, we have our minimal education requirement, whether they need no education, all the way up to a master's or postmaster's degree. That information will help in reviewing your history for each item. So say our item was 2546. We'll enter that code, and then we'll come down and we have booklet instructions. How do we want our booklet to look? Typically, we want a standard instruction page that's going to tell you that we have these items in the test and they will be scored based on the number of correct items. If you are a jurisdiction who prefers to prepare your own instruction page, you can certainly choose that, and we will not include the instruction page for you. 9 times out of 10, you're going to choose the standard instruction page. How much time do we need to give? Are we doing a single time limit on this booklet, or are we doing a separately timed section? Most times you will do a single time limit, but if you do have separately timed sections, such as details, and you want them to work very quickly, you want to make sure that that was the first section of your test. Because if you time them for the 10 minutes, you want to be able to cut it off and let them have the rest of the time to work on the rest of the test. So we'll choose single time limit for this particular test. How long do we want to give them for this test? 1 hour, 2 hours? Maybe this is a short test with 6 questions. We probably only want to give them a few minutes. So we have 2 sections. We have our questions. We know that we're using a single time limit for the entire test, and we're using standard scoring. If we had been using a separately timed section, then you might want a penalty for guessing. And we have certain questions that fall in that category. Here's the items that we chose for our test. And when we're ready and we have all the information as we need it, then we are ready to submit it. If you have further instructions that Maria needs to know, you can certainly type them in right here. When you're ready, you hit the booklet request. That submits the booklet, and you can see that our sample test is in a new status and waiting for us to work on. If we go home, you see under our second column, exam requests, we have booklet master submission status. What is the status of my sample test? My sample test has been submitted. If I come back to home, I can look and see my booklet master key and scoring request. When Maria has finished creating your booklet master, you're going to see it's going to show view exam and view exam key. Since she hasn't had a chance to work on the sample test yet, it's still showing as new status. When your test is ready to go, you will get an email and you will see the view exam, and you'll be able to view your exam, and it will look somewhat similar to this, where we have an instruction page and the different items that will be in that particular test. And we have the instructions on how to fill out the Scantron, and then your test will begin. You'll have your time limit there, and your test begins. If you look at your view exam key, you also have the exact same questions, but in a slightly different format, which will show all of your questions in the exam key format to show you what the correct answer is. We come back home, and I want to bring your attention again to the reference materials. When you get into your scoring and item analysis, we do have a breakout section for that and for utilizing item history, which is very good information for you in reviewing your questions. And I also want to bring your attention to the RIB manual and the RIB coordinator and user guide. This will definitely help you in working through your tests. I think you'll find with the new RIB system that it's very easy to use, and you'll have no difficulties once you used it a couple times. So there you have a complete cycle of using RIB services. Be sure to reference your user manual and don't be afraid to explore.